Here's a song using our two new chords. This is very simple. Since this is a very slow song, we will strum each chord with a downstroke. First, we play our C chord for 4 beats. In measure 2, we play the G for 4 beats. Measure 3 goes back to our C using half notes, so we strum on counts 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Followed by G with half notes, strumming on 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. In measure 5, we go back to C for a whole note, then G for a whole note. For the big ending, we split the measure in half, strumming C on the 1 count, then G on the 3 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, ending on the C chord in measure 8 for a whole count. Let's put it all together with a tempo starting at 50 BPM, then again at 100 BPM. If these chords are giving you trouble, please don't get discouraged. Keep playing through the following exercises. You will find that the individual note exercises will build up your strength, and by the second time through this section, you'll be playing these chords a lot better. Let's move on to the third string notes. Here, I'll be playing an Epiphone AJ500M acoustic guitar. This exercise is designed to teach you a few things all at once. First, it's designed to get you to use and strengthen your pinky or fourth finger of your playing hand. This first note is a C note, played on the 5th fret with your pinky. This is the same C note that we learned earlier on the 1st fret of the 2nd string. They are identical in pitch, they are written the same way on traditional sheet music, but they are played differently. The second measure is a B note, played on the 4th fret with your 3rd or ring finger. This B note is the same pitch as the open B note on the 2nd string, and it is written the same way on sheet music. So we now have 2 options for playing the B and C notes. B and C on the 2nd string, or B and C on the 3rd string. Back to our exercise. After playing C with your pinky, then B with your ring finger, we are going to skip to the A note on the 2nd fret and play this with our 1st or index finger. Notice how all the fingers line up 1 fret apart each. Now keep your hand in this position, but lift your index finger off the string. This opens up our exercise so we can play the 4th measure, which is an open G note. This G note is slightly different from the one we learned on the 1st string, 3rd fret. And it sounds different. It is written different also. These 2 different G notes are 1 octave apart. If you were to measure the frequency of each note, the G note on the 1st string would vibrate exactly twice as fast as the G note on the open 3rd string. Since the G note on the 1st string vibrates faster, it is higher in pitch. Since the G note on the 3rd string vibrates slower, it produces a lower pitch. Now back to our exercise on the third string. We started playing a new C note on the 5th fret with our pinky, or 4th finger, followed by a new B note on the 4th fret with our ring, or 3rd finger, then an A note on the 2nd fret with our index, or 1st finger, and the new G note, an octave lower, played on the open. No fingers, no frets. These are all whole notes receiving 4 beats each. Next, we are going to walk back up the neck of the guitar, playing half notes, receiving 2 beats each. So keep your hand in place, and this way all you have to do is apply pressure to hit the right notes. On the 5th measure, we play the open G for beats 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then A on the 2nd fret. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're keeping your hand in place, all you have to do is squeeze your 1st finger down. Next, play our new B note by applying your 3rd finger and pick on beats 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Finally, for the big ending, we are back to our new C, played as a whole note on the 5th fret. 1, 2, 3, 4. And don't forget to use alternate picking strokes for each note. Down, up, down, up. Let's put it all together with a tempo of 60 BPM. Now let's try it at double speed, 120 BPM. This 3-string song introduces the repeat symbol. The double bar line, followed by 2 dots, signifies the beginning of a repeat section. The 2 dots, followed by a double bar, signifies the end of the repeat section. Whenever you see a repeat section, play the musical piece twice in a row before moving on to the rest of the written music. If you are to play the piece more than twice, instructions will be given with the sheet music. Now let's look at the notes of our song. The entire song uses half notes. This is very similar to our song on strings 1 and 2. The first 2 measures are identical, playing G, F, E, then D. In the 3rd measure, we play C with our 1st finger, 1st fret on the 2nd string, followed by our new open G note on the 3rd string. Back to C on the 2nd string, then the open E note on the 1st string. Let's consider this part 1 of our song. Part 2 would be measures 5 through 8, playing G, F, and E, then back up in pitch to F, then G, all on the 1st string. Next, play the open B note on the 2nd string, our new low G note on the 3rd string, and back to B for the ending. Remember, there is a repeat symbol at the beginning and end, so we are going to loop this song and play it twice. For a test run, let's play the last measure, then jump into the 1st measure. Now let's play it all together at 60 BPM, remembering to jump back to the 1st measure to play the song through a 2nd time. Here it is again at 120 BPM. Now it's time to learn a real C chord, consisting of the notes C, E, and G. They can be in any order, so we will start on the G string, which is the name for our third string open, followed by the C on the second string first fret, and finally our open E note on the first string. Just like we learned with the partial C chord, we need to make sure the finger holding the C note stands straight up so it does not touch the first and now the third string as well. Put your pick above the third string and strum through strings 3, 2, and 1. Next, we'll add to our G chord by playing the new low octave G on the third string open, followed by the B string open, then the G note on the first string third fret with the third finger. Put your pick above the third string and strum through all 3 strings. This next song is identical to the song on strings 1, 2, and 3. But in measure 4, we are playing a C chord. And in measure 8, we play our G chord. All of the individual notes are held as half notes, and the chords are held as whole notes. There is a repeat symbol, so we will loop this song, playing it twice. Here it is at a slow tempo of 60 BPM, then again double time at 120 BPM. This new song incorporates quarter notes, receiving 1 beat per note, giving our song a much faster feel. The first 2 measures have us playing a descending scale run. Notes G, F, and E on the first string, notes D, C, and B on the second string, A on the third string, and back up to B on the second string. The B note sets us up for our C chord in the third measure. Just hold the C note and strum strings 3, 2, and 1 for for a whole note duration. Next, we play an ascending scale run using quarter notes, starting with our low octave G, then A on the third string, notes B, C, and D on the second string. On the first string, notes E, F, then back to E, which sets us up for our G chord for measure 6, which is held for a 4 count. Then we repeat the whole section. Here it is with the tempo, first at 60 BPM, then a more advanced speed of 120 BPM. One of the easiest ways to learn new chords is to find chords similar to the ones that you already know. For example, if we play the C chord, open G, C on the first fret of the second string, and open E, we can easily change this to an A minor chord by adding one note. Simply add the A note on the second fret of the third string, and the chord now becomes an A minor chord. If we take our G chord, made up of G open, B open, and G on the third fret of the first string, we can change this to an E minor by playing the open E instead of G. Just strum strings 3, 2, and 1 open. Here's a quarter note exercise using all 4 chords. First, strum C 4 times. Leave your first finger in place and add the A note, making an A minor chord, and strum 4 times. Lift fingers 1 and 2 and add your third finger to the G note on the first string, making our G chord, and strum 4 times. Finally, lift the fretted G note, making an E minor chord, and strum strings 1, 2, and 3 4 times. For this exercise, position your hand the same way you did for the third string, so your fingers are 1 fret apart each. Your index finger should be above the 2nd fret, middle finger above the 3rd, ring above the 4th, and pinky above the 5th. Again, to help strengthen the pinky, we are going to start with it on the 5th fret and descend to our other notes. The 5th fret note is another way to play our low G from the 3rd string open. They are the same pitch and they are written the same way in sheet music, but we now have two options for playing them. After the new G half note, which is held for 2 beats, we skip the 4th fret and descend to the 3rd fret. This is a new lower octave F note. After the new F note, we descend to the 2nd fret, which is a lower octave E note. The new F and E notes are quarter notes, played for 1 beat each. So altogether, the first measure of this exercise is G on the 5th fret for counts 1, 2, F on the 3rd fret for the 3 count, and E on the 2nd fret for the 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure 2 starts off with a new low octave D note. The D is played open on the 4th string and has a half note for counts 1 and 2. Next, we ascend to the E for the 3 count, followed by F for the 4 count. Measure 3 is identical to 1, playing G, F, E. And measure 4 has us holding the new low D for a whole note. Then we repeat 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here it is at a slow pace of 70 BPM. Adding to our 3-string melody, in measure 4 we play our new low octave E on the 4th string, 2nd fret, followed by the open G string. For the second half, all is the same, but for the last measure we play the open G, followed by our new open D note. Let's give it a try at 70 BPM, then double time at 140 BPM. In the last exercise, we added some notes that you might have guessed can be added to fill out some chords. Holding the 3-string C chord, you can now add the E note on the 4th string's 2nd fret. To thicken up the G chord, simply add the open D note. Here's a C to G chord progression that incorporates a half note, quarter note strumming pattern. Starting with our new C chord, strum down on the 1 count and hold for 2. Strum down again for the 3 count, then strum up for the 4 count. Measure 2 is the same C chord in the same rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now change to the G chord in measure 3 and strum the same rhythm pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure 4 is the same, G chord, half note, quarter. Then repeat the whole song. Here it is at 70 BPM, then again at 140 BPM. Using quarter notes, we'll run straight down the scale, starting on the 1st string with G, F, E, 2nd string D, C, B, 3rd string A, then G, ending on our new 4-string C chord, played with whole notes for 4 beats. Next, we run up the scale, starting on the 4th string with the low D open, E, then F, 3rd string G, A, 2nd string B, C, D, ending on our new G chord for a full 4 beats. Then we repeat. Let's put it all together at 70 BPM. Next, the drum machine will count us in, and we'll give it a try at 140 BPM. With our new notes on the 4th string, we also have added notes to our other chords. You can now add the E note to the A minor chord. This is going to require a change of fingering from the 3-string version. The 1st string is still open. On the 2nd string, you still hold the C note with your 1st finger, but instead of holding the A note on the 3rd string 2nd fret with your middle finger, you hold it down with your ring finger. Then use your middle finger or 2nd finger to hold the lower E note on the 4th string 2nd fret. Place your pick above the 4th string and strum. You can also enhance the E minor chord by adding the lower E note. Let's take our half, quarter rhythm and apply it to each chord. Starting with our new C chord, then add the A note to make an A minor. Next, change to E minor by keeping your second finger on the lower E note, 4th string 2nd fret, but lift the other fingers away. And finally, switch to G by lifting your second finger and placing your third finger on the high G note, 1st string 3rd fret. Then you repeat the song. Let's play the whole thing slowly at 70 BPM. Now double time, 140 BPM. This introduction to the 5th string uses the same frets and fingerings that we applied to string 4. Starting with your pinky on the 5th fret, we have another way to play our low D note. This is the same pitch as a D on the 4th string open. Next is a new lower octave C on the 3rd fret, then a lower octave B on the 2nd fret, and finally the lower octave A note played open on the 5th string. Ascend back up to D, then descend back down to A. The rhythm is half, quarter for the first 3 measures, ending on a whole note for the open A string. Then repeat the section. Let's count it in at 80 BPM. Instead of counting us in with all 4 beats, I'll use a short count in, starting at beats 3 then 4, and we'll start playing on the 1 count. Now let's speed it up to 160 BPM. The first 3.5 measures are the same as the song on strings 1 through 4. The difference is the addition of the C note for the second half of the 4th measure. Next, we play the new lower octave B on the 2nd fret, followed by the open A, then back to B, all on the 5th string. Then we pick the open D, followed by the open G, open B, then end on the high G on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. This is the only whole note in the song. The rest are all half notes. After the whole note G, we repeat the song. Here it is at 80 BPM with a short count in, and then again at 160 BPM. By adding the fifth string notes, we can finally complete our C chord by adding the low octave C on the 3rd fret using your 3rd finger. We can also enhance our G chord by adding the 5th string's 2nd fret B note with your 1st finger. You also have the option of using your pinky for the 1st string 3rd fret G note. Up until now, we have been using our 3rd finger or ring finger. It may be more comfortable for you to use your pinky instead. Plus, it will free up your 3rd finger for chords that we will be learning later on. Now let's get used to playing these chords with our half, quarter, quarter rhythm. To change from C to G, move your 1st finger from the 2nd string 1st fret to the 5th string 2nd fret. At the same time, lift your 2nd and 3rd fingers away from the strings and move to the 1st string 3rd fret G with your 3rd or 4th finger, whichever you decide to use for the new G chord. Starting at 80 BPM and again at 160. For this song, we run down our scale using quarter notes. On the 1st string, play G, F, E, 2nd string D, C, B, 3rd string A, G, 4th string F, E, D, 5th string C, B, A, then back to B for a half note. This sets us up for the C chord in measure 5, which is held as whole notes for 4 beats. And now in part 2, we ascend up the scale using quarter notes, starting on the 5th string with notes A, B, C, 4th string D, E, F, 3rd string G, A, 2nd string B, C, D, and 1st string E, F, G, then back to F for a half note. The F sets us up for the G chord in measure 5, which is held as whole notes. Then we repeat parts 1 and 2. Here it is at 80 BPM, then again at 160 BPM. The 5-string A minor chord is very simple. Just add the open A note to the 4th string version. The 5th string E minor is played by adding the low octave B with your index or first finger to the 2nd fret. Now, applied to our half, quarter rhythm starting with the C chord, we change to A minor by lifting the 3rd finger from the 5th string 3rd fret and placing it on the higher A note on the 3rd string's 2nd fret. To change from A minor to E minor, keep your 2nd finger planted on the E note, 4th string 2nd fret, and move your index finger from the 2nd string 1st fret and place it on the lower octave B note, 5th string 2nd fret. Your ring and pinky fingers are not used. To change from E minor to G, keep your index finger planted on the 5th string 2nd fret, lift your middle finger, you don't need it for this chord, and hold the 1st string 3rd fret G note with your ring or pinky finger. Then repeat by going back to C. To change from G to C, move your index finger from the 5th string 2nd fret to the 2nd string 1st fret. Your 2nd finger goes to the 4th string 2nd fret, 3rd finger to the 5th string 3rd fret. Here's our rhythm using all 4 chords at 80 BPM and again at 160 BPM. We have made it to the last string. This exercise uses the same notes and fingerings as the notes we've learned on the 1st string. Open, this string produces a low E note. This is the 3rd E that we've learned so far, and this string is referred to as the low E string. The 1st fret is a new low F note played with your 1st finger. The 3rd fret is a new low G note played with your 3rd finger. In this exercise, the E and F are played as half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, then switching to quarter notes, play G, F, E, F. This sets us up for a long G note, which introduces a new symbol. The symbol is called the tie because it ties the duration of the notes together. Instead of holding this note for a whole note or 4 beats, we are going to hold it for 2 whole notes, a total of 8 beats. When you play this note, let it ring out in rhythm 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then repeat starting with E. Here it is at 90 BPM. Now 180 BPM. Part 1 of our 6-string song is identical to our song on strings 1 through 5. The only difference is the ending, which adds our C chord, which is held for 2 measures thanks to the tie symbol. Part 2 has us play a familiar melody of half notes on the 1st string, starting with G, then F, E, F, G. Next is the open B, open G, then the open D, followed by our new G chord, which is played by simply adding our new low G note on the 6th string, 3rd fret with the 2nd or middle finger. This G chord has a tie and is held for 2 full measures. Then we repeat the whole song. Let's play it at 90 BPM and again at 180 BPM. The first half of Scales with Chords is the same as the 5th string exercise. But we're going to add a tie to the C chord, so now we'll be holding it for 2 measures. In part 2, we play our scale ascending from the low E to the high E. The whole scale is played with quarter notes up until the high E string, which is played as a half note, setting us up for the full G chord, which is held for 2 measures. Then we repeat the whole song. Here it is at 90 BPM, then double time at 180. We've learned the full version of all of our chords, except for the E minor, which is completed by simply adding the low E note to the 5th string version. Let's wrap up our 6th string lesson by playing our half, quarter rhythm with full chords at 90 BPM and double time at 180 BPM. Congratulations! You have now learned to play on all 6 strings. How did you do? Were you able to play each exercise at both the slow and the fast speed? If not, there are 2 things that you can do. First, if you go back and repeat each lesson, you will probably find that you are now fast enough to play both speeds. If you remember, our slow speed for the 1st string lesson was set at 40 BPM and double time was set at 80 BPM. The last lesson, where we added the 6th string notes, had a slow tempo of 90 BPM, 10 beats faster than the 1st string lesson. Also, the fast tempo for the 6th string notes was at 180 BPM, 100 beats faster than the 1st string lesson. Each lesson gradually sped up, so go back and see if you can repeat each lesson at the fast tempo. It will be a great refresher for what we've learned so far. Plus, it will be rewarding to see how much better you are now than when you first started these lessons. The second way you could play each lesson faster is to practice it with a metronome. Let's say you're having trouble playing at 180 BPM. You can choose a slower tempo and try it at 100 BPM. When you could play that speed, try 110 or 120. As you improve, keep increasing the speed. You can also visit the bonus section of this DVD and make use of our on-screen metronomes. As we added strings, we built up to the full C and G chord, while adding A minor and E minor. Here are some new chords which are similar to what we have already learned. Holding a C chord, you can easily change to a G7 chord by moving your index finger from the 2nd string 1st fret to the 1st string 1st fret, and moving your middle and ring fingers up to strings 5 and 6. Here's the change: C to G7. Play the G chord we have already learned. By using your pinky on the 1st string 3rd fret, you can play an alternate G chord by adding your ring finger to the 2nd string 3rd fret. By playing the new alternative G chord, you can switch to a C9 by moving your middle and index fingers down 1 string. Again, here's G to C9. The A minor chord that we've already learned, then move everything down 1 string. The only difference is to slide your ring finger up to the 2nd string 3rd fret and you have a D minor chord. Pick the 4th string open and the notes you have already fretted. Here's the change: A minor to D minor. From D minor, slide your index finger up from the 1st string 1st fret to the 2nd fret. The rest of the fingerings are the same. I often see the D chord taught with different fingerings than what I suggest. Here's the way a lot of people play the D chord. I play it this way because it is a lot easier to change to other popular chords. For example, D to C, and back to D, D to G, and back to D, D to A minor, and back to D. All of these changes require very little finger movement. Finally, let's take the A minor chord and move all of our fingers up one string to form an E major chord. Here are some ideas for different ways to play chords. For this section, we will use the E chord. For each exercise, simply hold the chord with the correct fingers. You'll be able to alter the sound of the chord by applying the different techniques listed. Here are some ideas for different ways to play chords. For this section, we will use the E chord. For each exercise, simply hold the chord with the correct fingers. You'll be able to alter the sound of the chord by applying different techniques. The most common and basic way to play a chord is to strum it. Simply strum or play all the strings that are part of the chord at the same time. The slash marks after the initial chord or notes represent repeating strokes. The best way to do this is to strum down, then up repeatedly.